Hello, welcome back. My name is JD Ferrell. I am a licensed professional counselor in the state of Illinois, and this is a Modern Man podcast presented to you by the Modern Podcast Network. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. We're going to hop right in. I just want to let you know, I hope you're constantly checking out Just Jenna, presented to you by the Modern Podcast Network, coming out every Tuesday. You can find her on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. That is Just Jenna by Jenna Maryland, presented to you by the Modern Podcast Network. We just had our Men in the Community event the other night. It went well. Obviously, it's the inaugural event, so I was happy to kind of just kick it off with Steven and other members who came and joined us. So look forward to March for our next event to come out and some other stuff we got rolling out in the Modern. We have a couple other podcasts and kind of gatherings and senses of community events going forward. So I'm really excited to talk about those in the near future. But besides that, we're going to hop right in to a Modern Man podcast. 2 weeks ago, we spoke about a collective denial. We were talking about things that were going on in the world, how the state of America right now, the only way we can kind of deal with what's going on right now is going with a collective denial. So this week, I said I was going to follow up on it and talk about collective healing. So this week, we are leading into collective healing. I'm going to start by kind of first just giving that initial reaction. What is collective healing? Like, what is it? And when I first think about it, of course, the first thing that comes to mind is, indigenous communities, like a spiritual gathering, doing like a sacred dance and doing like a holistic ritual. Obviously something very cliche, something very stereotypical, is my initial reaction. But then I'm thinking of something unified. I'm thinking of some sense of expression that is collective. That is a collective sense of expression. And that's what comes to mind by healing. All right. And before I dive deeper into how we can actually go through the specific things I felt like we were in collective denial about and process through collective healing, I want to talk a little bit about radical healing, which I was taught through my grad school professors and kind of mentors, Dr. Adames, Dr. Chavez. Really, Dr. Hector Adames leaned into radical healing. And so I want to do a little background on radical healing and what it is and how it ties in with collective healing and how I feel we are going to have to go through this sense of collective healing. So I want to do a little overview first about coping versus healing. Okay. Coping is surviving. Critical consciousness is not really present. It's really the individual. The individual is coping through whatever stressful situation they are going through in that moment. It's about symptom reduction. And again, like we said, your critical consciousness isn't there. You're just unconsciously trying to be like, my body has a problem, my mind has a problem, X has a problem. Where can I feel the Y to fix this problem, to just like get through this moment? Okay. And what I want to focus on rather than coping, because we are just coping through this world. Every day we're coping, and that's what brings in denial. I want us to heal. Okay. Healing, thriving, gaining that critical consciousness of actually like what is happening, what is the oppression we're experiencing. All right. Focus on collectivism. Again, not the individual. It's not the individual like in coping. We're healing. So it's about the collective. Okay. All right. It's the resistance and opening yourself to new realities because we are healing. We are healing, baby. We are opening our mind, our body, our experiences to new realities. And that is when the healing comes into place. And which leads to radical healing. And when I hear that radical healing is the individual, collective healing is when each individual explores radical healing. So now we're collectively healing. You get how that makes sense? It's kind of like radical healing is to psychology as collective healing is to sociology. And radical healing is developing a critical attitude or ideology that promotes the complete change that's necessary to reduce social problems. Okay. Developing a critical attitude or ideology that promotes a complete change. We have to flip this shit upside down, okay? A complete change is necessary, all right, to reduce the social problems. The social problems I talked about: stress, loneliness, grief, and a lack of control. We have to develop a critical ideology, all right? Critical. And then I learned, all right, from Dr. Hector Adames, 5 anchors of radical healing. So I'm going to go through the 5 anchors before I talk about how we can collectively heal those 4 things. All right. So the 5 anchors of radical healing starts with self-knowledge. First, we need self-knowledge. We need to acknowledge the pain. Okay. We need to acknowledge the oppression and then foster hope. Because once the self understands, once we have that critical consciousness of like, okay, I am hurting and this is why I'm hurting. Step one, first anchor, okay, of radical healing. Which leads us to second, critical consciousness. As I said, first you have to have this self-knowledge. You have to know what is happening, what is going on to me, what is affecting my body, what is triggering me, what is going on, what is this? And then it allows me to move for critical consciousness, which is the most important anchor. The most important anchor. Once we know, it gives a sense of empowerment. It's when some people, in the field of psychology, some people really don't like diagnosis. Some people really don't. My supervisor, she's doing a training where it's labeled "Why diagnoses are bullshit," and I was like, okay, that's a statement. And yeah, hates diagnosis, but for some people, labeling it, diagnosing it, that's healing. All right, bringing that unconscious to the conscious. Why was this affecting me? This is happening to me. That's healing. Some people find that so incredibly healing. And I give that sense because I do not labeling. I do not love the diagnosis, but I can see why some people have no idea what the fuck is going on with them, their body, their mind, cognitively, everything. So putting a name to it, putting a label, that is healing. So I can see that. And that's why it just gives this sense of empowerment when now you're like, this is happening. Okay. Third, baby, we need radical hope. We need radical hope. It gives you a sense of agency. Okay. It gives you the ability, the willingness, the want to fight for that injustice. Radical hope. And that's why, again, it's these steps. Once you know what is going on to you, okay, then I have the critical consciousness. And like we said, it's so important. It's the most important because usually it gives that sense of empowerment. Now that I have this critical consciousness of what is happening to me, leads to critical action, which leads to radical hope. Now that I know what the hell has been going on to me for so long, I got hope, baby. I got hope. Like singing Negro spirituals, I got hope. Once we have this sense of urgency, this sense of belief that, I can overcome this. Next anchor, strength and resilience. Okay. Individuals now have the ability to use all their available resources to adapt, overcome adversity. All right. You're going to face adversity going through radical healing. You're going to, when you're facing oppression, when you're fighting against the grain, you're going to face adversity. You need strength and resilience. You need to anchor yourself in strength and resilience. Now that you have that radical hope, now that you have this critical action, baby, now you need the strength and resilience. Use all your available resources and be like, all right, I'm going to overcome this. I know there's injustice, but I'm going to make my way. I'm going to do this. And last, you need emotional and social support. Creating a community to thrive. When you're facing adversity, you need to anchor yourself and those around you. Yes, sometimes you create that think tank and groupthink happens and you get just an echo chamber. But when you're healing, when you're facing adversity, you need that emotional and social support. Okay? That is the final anchor, because when you are going through all that out there, you need to make sure you got people that fill up your cup, because fighting adversity is filling everyone else's cup. Make sure you have people at home that are filling up your cup. So again, we need self-knowledge. All right. We have to understand what is happening to us, what is going on, what is affecting us, what is triggering us. Okay. Then we need critical consciousness. We need to bring all that stuff underneath the surface up to the surface. Okay. Critical consciousness, which leads to critical action, which leads to radical hope. Radical hope. That sense of urgency, that belief to fight. Okay. Which leads to strength and resilience. The ability to fight adversity, to really use all the resources in our tool belt. That's strength and resilience. But then at the end of the day, we need emotional and social support. We need that. We need that to fall back on, because it's going to be hard out here. It's not going to be easy. It's not. No one's saying it's going to be easy. All right. Radical healing is not easy. So you need emotional and social support. All right, for your community to thrive. Those are the anchors of radical healing. And like I said, radical healing is you need to develop a critical, attitude or ideology that promotes a complete change to improve these social problems. So the social problems we're about to go through, all right, it's the collective denial of the stress we're under, the collective denial of what we can actually control, the collective denial of how lonely we are, and the collective denial of the grief. I'm going to talk how, obviously, in radical healing, the individual goes through that. But then I'm going to talk about how, like, as a society, you start to see that. How you start to see the changes in the collective healing. Okay, so think about healing from stress. We have to collectively heal in this mindset. And it kind of started during the Affordable Care Act. Yes, because healthcare is tied in with our stress in our bodies, that they go hand in hand. But along with in the Affordable Care Act, when healthcare became a little bit more accessible, they made the eligibility for benefits, the work week, going down to 32 hours. And I think that is the biggest critical factor to kind of start acknowledging this stress and healing from this collective stress. Moving the work week down to 32 hours. And yes, being eligible for full time, that is allowed. But I'm talking about now overtime is 32 hours. I'm not saying go down to a 4-day work week. I'm saying now we only have like a 7-hour work day. That gives 8 hours of more time for sleep, for spending time with loved ones, to possibly work an alternative job if that's your choice. But that gives us all a sense to collectively heal from the stress we are under. Because we can manage. We've proven we can manage. Yes, a lot more people are working from home, and that has its problems itself. But we've proven we can go down to a 4-day work week. They've been to schools to 4 days, and I don't want to go down to 4 days. I want to go down to 32 hours. Let's have a little bit more siestas, okay? That's what they do in Latin American countries. I don't think we can completely go to that in America. We can still do a 5-day work week, but 32 hours. Imagine the ripple effects, how this is going to affect all the other areas of people's lives. Being able to spend another 8 hours either sleeping or with their family. The stress. Or another 8 hours at a whole nother job. So now that same job that they were working 2 shifts extra a week, they can do a 3rd one. Or they can take time to rest. And again, this doesn't mean paying people less. This means now you have to configure salaries around a 32-hour work week. You have to consider that person now is making a higher hourly wage because it's a 32-hour work week. The prep, everything, 32 hours, unless you want to pay him overtime. More than happy to pay him overtime. He'll probably take that overtime, or she'll take that overtime. I'm sorry for genderizing that person, but they will take that overtime. Or you'll pay a higher wage and you'll get the work done in time. We can do it. We can do it. We're going to heal collectively from this stress we're under. We're going to heal. Next, we got loneliness. We talked about 15% of men don't have close friends. We talk about, yes, women have friendships, but how intimate are they? We talked about the divorce rate and people not having it. People are lonely. Again, in radical healing, people have to individually know what they have to go through. But collectively, baby, we got to get off social media. Okay, the internet ain't the problem. Internet is not the problem. Social media is the problem. We've given so much, and this will lead to the next thing, control. We've given so much power to social media in terms of the follows we give them, their attention, all right, the messaging. Okay, we're giving all of that to social media. You know, they say disconnect to connect. People are like, why am I not connecting with people? Why am I so lonely? Why don't I have these? Disconnect to connect. You can use this social media to still connect to people. It's great to connect to people. Like, that's amazing. The fact that you can FaceTime a grandparent who lives halfway across the world, incredible. Like, the fact that still, you know, grandparents and grandchildren can still have relationships and things like that without having to travel across the country, and just relationship with your parent. Social media, keeping up with friends from high school, and these are amazing things, okay? But why do you need to follow Dunkin' Donuts? Okay? And I don't mean to throw my girl up here, but I'm still, hey, Black Queen, why are you following Taraji P. Henson? What are you getting out of that? Or Will Smith? Or Leonardo DiCaprio? Or Bella Hadid? You don't need to. They're not your friends. They're not paying attention to what you're doing. You're giving them so much power and so much attention when you have so much going on in your community. Go follow the local bakery. I want you to have 4,000 followers of 4,000 local businesses. That's how we disconnect to reconnect. We only use social media is great. Imagine if you just followed every restaurant and every friend that you actually came in contact with, or every restaurant that you would like to go to. Okay, or activities you want to go to. Use it for that. That is the beauty of social media. But you don't really need to follow what's his name? I was thinking of the boxer, Jake Paul. Okay, I don't need to follow Jake Paul. Like, you know, I'm on a daily unfollow. Disconnect to connect. All right. The next thing I was saying, control, which leans into power. And I'm more leaning, first, control what you can control. Yes, we have free and fair elections. Yes, we have the right to vote. And please, I'm not here to say don't vote. Go vote. But I'm saying we don't have actual control over that. You don't have control over the land you were born in, the language you were born to speak. Okay, yes, you have control over learning a new language. But, like, you don't have control over these things. So what you do have control over, and an old manager told me this, and this is something I'm really passionate about. Once we start to understand the power we do have and the thing we can control, purchasing power. We control the money we spend. I get with people boycotting Target, with people trying to get off Amazon. Okay? Whether you have $10,000 to spend a year, $50,000, or $200,000. That is your power. That is the power you have. Okay? And that is what you have control over. Think about it like this. Just think about it like this. Okay? I don't like cancel culture. I really don't. Okay? But frame it as more purchasing power. Okay? Look at how many more queer artists are out there. How many more non-binary artists who are more just eccentric. Look at Black country artists. This is purchasing power. This is, I'm choosing to support people I want to support. And it doesn't mean I'm canceling someone else. No, I can choose not to support them. And that's okay. That's everyone's right. I don't have to go on some whole, we have to cancel them. No, you can choose to put your money wherever you want. That shows me what your character is. I'm not going to choose and advocate for you to not pay for someone else. I'm going to choose you to give me your money. Give it to Black artists. Give it to Black businesses. Give it to Latino business. I'm not just saying, because plenty of Black, I've worked for some Black bar, plenty of Black businesses done people wrong, but plenty of white people do people wrong. But give the money where you want to. That is your power. And know that. And as soon as we radically heal as an individual, then we can collectively heal and collectively see that, yeah, we have the money, the purchasing power. It's our money. Like what JG Wentworth, it's your money. Use it when you need it, okay? Put it to where you want it to go. See the companies, the businesses, the opportunity you want to see thrive. Put it into that. I asked my practice owner. Went to a couple trainings, and all these people are offering groups and sessions, $300-$400 for each member. and like out of pocket, just all cash only. And I'm asking her, why do you take insurance? Like, I've seen all these other people who aren't as skilled as you, don't have the trainings, etc. And she said, I want to obviously guide other clinicians who may not have the opportunity to do private practice and all that, but then eventually, so she can invest money in communities and opportunities that she's passionate about. And plain and simple, yes, that's the power you have in a capitalistic society, to put your money into opportunities and things that you want to see succeed, and give them the opportunities that they're not always going to get. That is the control you have. Lastly, grief. Again, we are collectively in denial of the grief of the relatives we leave, of the expectations we've had. And to me, again, until we radically heal in the individual, then you'll see we can collectively heal and just have those conversations. I think by collectively healing with the grief, by the denial, it's talking about it. When your friend lost their mom a couple weeks ago, or even a couple years ago, how about talk about it? Say, hey, how's it been dealing without your mom lately? Yeah, I know you lost a child. What has that been coming up for you lately? Don't do it from like the therapeutic lens. Just be like, hey, bro, hey, girl, I'm thinking about you. I know you told me you did have an abortion. Like, does that come up for you? And you don't have to do it in like prying and in a negative sense. Do it in the sense of like, I care for you and I want to give you space to talk about it. Like, you don't always have to go to therapy to get these conversations, engage these conversations. Like, this is what the community is for. And another thing, which was all kind of interesting, my supervisor was saying in this future training, she says a reason why she thinks also therapy is bullshit, because we take healing out of the community. The reason why therapists exist, I believe she said that, is because we are denying these things in our community. And if you engaged in these things head on, you wouldn't have to come to a therapist, someone outside of your community. That's why we have to start to collectively heal as a community and put people like me out of business. But until we do that, I'm going to have a job, I guess. Okay. Again, these are the 4 things I feel like we are collectively in denial, and we all have to collectively heal. And we collectively heal through an individual radical healing, which then leads to a collective healing. So that's why the individual in psychology is so important, because yes, you can't change the whole system itself. You start by changing each individual, and then they have the ability to change the system. Okay. I'm going to start each podcast kind of leaving you with like a smart note, little critical thinking for you to take on, discuss with you, your spouse, your partner, family, or whoever you might listen to this podcast with. Okay. So I want you to think about the 4 areas of collective denial I talked about over the past couple of weeks. We talked about the stress you're under. We talked about the loneliness that you're experiencing in your life. Talked about the lack of control you have over the things in your life, and talked about the grief you're experiencing. So I want to know, how is being in denial of one of these struggles, whichever one you feel like you're kind of leaning more in, how is being in denial spilling over into other areas of your life? So for example, if someone is in denial of the loss of a parent, so they're in denial of the grief, maybe it's affecting their relationship with their spouse and their ability to communicate. So again, how is being in denial of one of these struggles spilling over into other areas of your life? All right. That is my critical thinking note to leave you with. I want to thank you all for listening to another episode of a Modern Man podcast. I will be having 2 podcasts a month. I will be going consistently 2 podcasts a month. The second Monday and the third Monday, or the fourth Monday of the month, will be the podcast release dates for Modern Man Podcast. The Modern Network is coming out with great things. Again, we have Just Jenna with Jenna Maryland every Tuesday. So please listen, subscribe, share with her. And then we have some things we're working on. Okay. The next event will be, again, March 5th. I'll tell you more about that. But besides that, I'm really excited for things coming up in late March, share with you, to experience, to like join community. And I hope you're listening. I hope you're tuning in. And I hope you are taking care of yourself during this time. We're all going through some collectively hard times. So we have to stick together. We have to join community, and we have to heal. So again, I'm JD Ferrell, and this is a Modern Man Podcast, presented to you by the Modern Podcast Network.